This is Egypt's #1 for hit music, 104.2 Nile FM. Now, Nile FM's Aware with Adham.
Heck yeah, it is. And today we're going to be talking to Yasmin and Yara about something that is literally just not being addressed in Egypt at all. Stay tuned. This is a very, very exciting interview for tonight's Aware.
Egypt's #1 for hit music, 104.2 Nile FM, Cairo. Nile FM's Aware.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Me, Adham, here with you for this edition of Nile FM's Aware. Joining me in the studio, Yasmin and Yara. I'm actually astounded to say it's still not registering. They're students, and they have done an absolutely phenomenal job addressing one issue that's in Egypt that is just not being addressed at all. First of all, welcome on the show, and let me jump straight to it and ask you, why did you guys choose this particular issue to address and to kind of launch a whole initiative around?
Because through research, we found that there are about 85,000 dwarves in Egypt who have been completely overlooked by society and who are really in need of a hand to come and help them. So we chose to be that hand, to take this subject that's been completely overlooked and give it a voice.
Well, I mean, 85,000 people in Egypt that are dwarfs, and absolutely nothing is being done about it. There's no NGOs, there's no party, there is no, nothing? Absolutely nothing?
Well, yeah, it might be hard to believe that, but yes, absolutely nothing, because they're a minority. But sometimes minorities are easier to help than majorities because they're a small group and you can actually do something that would help them, and that's why we chose to do something for them.
You're talking about dwarfism and the fact that they just don't have a voice, and you wanted to become that voice that addresses their needs. Exactly what are you doing? How did it start, and where are you taking this?
Okay, so it started. We're simply a couple of students at AUC, and we had to choose a topic for our graduation project, and we decided to, instead of taking a product like every other single person who does that, we just wanted to take a social cause, because a lot of things that are not being addressed in Egypt. But we chose dwarfism in specific because dwarfism was, like I said before, they're a minority, and yes, we can help them, and yes, we can communicate with them, and yes, they deserve this help. And then it just developed. We started we planned an event at AUC. It was a huge event. It was very successful. We had a lot of entertainment, and it was fun, and we had a lot of members from the short stature community actually joining us at AUC, and we were trying to break the barrier, between
spreading a little bit of awareness.
Yes, and breaking the barrier,
Yara, I see you want to contribute. Please jump in.
Yes, because there's something very, very important that needs to be addressed, that dwarves, they suffer from a social stigma. It's not only that they're unemployed or lack certain opportunities. It's a social stigma projected on them by society because of their height. That's really the main obstacle for why they cannot be productive elements in society.
Right.
So this is because anything that deviates from the norm is largely misunderstood by people. So what we're trying to do is to explain to them that overlook their height, because they're much more than that, and that they can be productive elements of society.
I didn't know that there are 85,000 dwarfs, and is that the actual terminology that one should use, or what exactly is the terminology that should be used?
We were advised by psychology professors to actually call them persons with dwarfism, but for the purposes of the project and the fact that we use this word a lot, we just call them dwarfs, and they don't mind that because in Arabic they're like aqzam, and this, when you translate it, it's dwarfs. So.
Yeah, it's a lot better than midget or, for example, short person.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
And again, speaking of that, the amount of ridicule, because unfortunately we are a very sarcastic nation in Egypt. How do they relate? I mean, when you spoke to them, do they take a joke, or do they take it as a joke when people make fun of their height? Or is it something that really cuts deep, and does it hinder them from being all that they can be?
One of the things that really touched us when they came to AUC was how we saw there are people who really like to laugh and joke around and dance and sing and everything. But it's really heartbreaking when you listen to them, when you get into more personal with them, and they tell you about the stories, the mockery they're subjected to on Egyptian street is really, it affects them to the point where some of them get into the bad depressions. We just had a story of one of them who was locked in his house for 30 years to not be subjected to this kind of mockery that he would get get exposed to on Egyptian streets. So
That's absolutely horrible. And I don't understand. Please explain to me if you have any information about this. What's the difference between being, for example, a dwarf or being too fat or being too thin or being too tall? Everybody suffers from mockery. Why is it something that is more or less allowed, so to speak, in Egyptian culture?
Because simply people choose what they want to make fun of and what they don't want to. People choose what to accept and what not to accept. To me, being fat is a disability just as much as being short. There are things you can do and there are things you cannot do. And if you think of it, sometimes dwarfs can do things we cannot do because of their short stature, which makes me like, so they're not really disabled. Sometimes we are disabled.
What's your plans for the future?
Because of all the media attention we've been getting lately, we decided we won't stop here. And even if we're still planning on going on national TV, we're still communicating with the NGO and all, and any chance or opportunity for us to help, we will not leave it. We will take it.
Can people get in touch with you in any way or shape or form? I mean, is there a Facebook group? Is it an email, a website?
We have a Facebook page under the name Iksar El 3aada, and we have videos on YouTube related to the campaign, and also we have an Instagram account under the name Iksar El 3aada.
I'm going to ask you to spell Iksar El 3aada just so we don't have any confusions.
Yeah, it's EKSAR and then EL and then 3ADA. But with Instagram, you just have to have the underscore between the two words.
Fair enough. There you go. So Facebook and Instagram, you can check these guys out. Unfortunately, it is coming to be that time of day where we have to wrap things up for this edition of NileFM's Aware. It was literally humbling to be in the presence of these two ladies. And you mentioned that it's not just you two that are working on this, but it's a group of 5 people. Yasmin, Yara, who else?
there's Justina Hatem, Shadina Abdelmajid, and Farah Kashfa. We're five doing this together.
Suddenly this sounded like, I want to thank Giddu Hamada and Tita Fifi. Very funny. But these 5 amazing young women dedicating a lot of time and a whole lot of effort to the issue and challenge of dwarfism in Egypt. And it's so amazing to just change your paradigm and realize that their challenge is not in terms of their physical abilities, because they're very physically able. Their challenge is that they're absolutely not heard at all. They have no voice in the community, and a lot of people think that this is something to be made fun of, which absolutely is not the case. Thank you, ladies, so very much for your tireless work. Hats off to you.
Thank you.
Any final messages, any final words that you'd like to say or share?
We just want to say that even though they might be seen as incapable, they are very capable. Just give them a chance to try out things. They want to have jobs, they want to have healthcare, and they want to be part of our society. Just give them a chance. They don't want to be alone. They want to be part of us. We just have to give them a chance.
And they absolutely have the right to do so, and it's our responsibility to enable them to do so. Thank you guys very, very, very much for taking the time. And as I always mention, maybe not even an NGO, even if it's a graduation project that kind of spiraled up and started an initiative, if you're working on something to give back to the community, please send us an email, aware@nileradioproductions.net. One more time, that's aware@nileradioproductions.net. Tell me a little bit about your initiative, and I'd love to have you right here on the show and shed some light about the great work that's being done to give back to the community. That's it from us. Hope you had a great weekend. We'll catch you next week, where it's all about giving back to the community right here on NileFM's Aware.